very happy to have you here with me. And I'll say let's hop right into the topic because we're really talking about the nexus, right, between energy, water, and food. And maybe if I can start with you, Mrs. Leakey, because I was very curious. I think the agricultural sector is one that really brings everything together, right? They have energy uses, water is a very important element of it, and it provides us with nutrients and with food in that sense. I was curious, what would you say are some of the ways that renewable energy can be better integrated within that agricultural sector specifically?
I think there are several things that need to be managed as we make this transition to capturing both the solar PV opportunity and the opportunity to safeguard our food systems. And one's been talked about earlier. We need to recognize where water is an issue and how we bring solar irrigation, solar pumping to farmers in places that haven't had access to that technology.
Right.
Second area we really need to build out is the system approach to thinking about solar as it pertains to cold storage, right? Reducing food loss and waste, ensuring that we get more income for farmers by making those food crops more accessible in the marketplace. But that doesn't just rely on the farmer and the agrivoltaic. You have to then have a cold chain to go that have that food move into. And finally, the agri-processing. What processing value added can the agrivoltaics provide an opportunity to a farmer to do? Because you are generating electricity on your farm.
Yeah.
So you can add services, add value.
Right, indeed. That's actually a very good point because when you think about it, you're opening a whole new line branch of way that you're going into it. I see Mr. Goldbeck also smiling, so I think that's something that definitely resonates there. Dr. Prasert, if I can go to you, what would you have to say about sort of the opportunities that we can see in bringing renewable energy better into the agricultural sector?
Absolutely. For Thailand, we use a lot of solar energy for, like Jennifer have said, the solar pumping, irrigation, solar dyeing, and we also have the solar cooling. We have over 10,000 projects all over the country to do this solar pumping system, and that would help the farmers to grow their crops better, water management and everything. I must say that to have this renewable energy to help the farmers would be very useful. And the speaker before talked about the agrivoltaic. I think that's the excellent idea. It's the only innovative solution. You know, what a waste if we only do solar power.
Yeah, thank you so much. I mean, if I hear the both of you and also Mr. Goldbeck, what he said before, I keep on thinking, okay, amazing, we should have started doing this everywhere yesterday, but perhaps that's a little naive because, Mrs. Lake, if I say that, can you maybe help understand, are there challenges or obstacles that smallholder farmers face in implementing this, or is it really a question of why didn't we start yesterday?
Well, I think the upshot of this is that we haven't had this integration requirement, this need for integration in the past. It's the same way, right? If we look at the scarcity of land, it's much more today. We have more mouths to feed. We have a lot more income today that requires that we build out this broader marketplace solution.
How do we do that, building it out?
First of all, we have to get the farmers to have access to the technology. And right now, finance is a challenge for many farmers. There aren't the kind of consumer-facing, farmer-facing finance solutions. So we may have it on the supply side where the actual PV side comes in and the businesses that are doing the PV work, but we haven't gotten it all the way down to the farmer level. And then the second thing we have to be able to really do is beyond the finance, we have to be thinking much more about how we manage for the success of the technology, not just the business planning, but operations and maintenance. Those are big issues. We've seen where this has been the major failure out of the PV system and the PV transition, not just in agriculture, but also on rooftops. What happens when that PV panel fails? Do you have a supply chain? Do you have operations and maintenance? And does the consumer know how to access that and pay for it?
Yeah, because I was about to ask, indeed, when you say operations and maintenance, what is the biggest bottleneck there? But if I hear you, then it's really the accessibility to the material. Is it also knowledge? Is it Is it people with the skills, or is it everything?
It's all of the above. So we
Okay.
really do we need training. We need to create a program that's affordable for people to take on insurance
Right.
or a service contract so that somebody's coming back and checking on whether that system is performing.
Right.
Energy services are required.
Yeah, absolutely. So if I hear you, it's the financing element, it's operations, maintenance, how can we bring skills, but also like the supply chain be present locally there in order to help keep that intact. Dr. Prasert, you already mentioned that you have a lot of ongoing pilot projects also in Thailand. I always believe, I'm a firm believer in the best way of learning and learning from others to sort of see examples and hear more about it. So I was wondering if you could perhaps tell us a little bit more about the agri-voltaics projects that you have ongoing.
But before I go to that examples, I just want to say that solar voltaic would be a main component of in this power system for Thailand.
Yeah.
Since we committed to this carbon neutrality by 2050,
Yeah.
we're gonna add more of about 10 gigawatt of solar for this over
Wow.
6 years, and for and we're looking at about 100 gigawatt of solar for the next 20 years.
Right.
So with that, we have the constraint in terms of the land use, food security, and so forth. So this voltaic is the key answer for us.
Yeah.
So we do quite a bit of studies and pilot projects, and thanks to GIZ that helping us to conduct this study, looking at the climate conditions, solar radiation, rainfalls, the moisture content, things like that. So we are doing about 10 projects in many provinces in Thailand, mostly in the northern part, central, and also the northeastern part. Which, of course, Thailand is the agriculture country, so we need to do this in order to help the farmers to improve their crop productions and also their income.
Yeah.
One example that in particular that I want to
Highlight?
talk about is a 90 megawatt solar voltaic. They use these semi-transparent
Yeah.
solar, and they be able to grow organic rice and vegetables, and they can sell those crops, at the same time contribute to this sustainable solution for energy security. So they both can go along very well.
Yeah.
We also grow a few things like tomatoes, lettuce, sugar cane, and some of the project we even hybrid with biogas, livestock using the cow manure
So
to
really
produce the
bringing-
biogas. So we try to bring in everything together.
Together, yeah.
Right. So this community levels type of power production is something that we going for.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks also for sharing that, because again, as I say, it's always these concrete sort of tangible examples, also interesting, semi-transparent, what that does also for the crops beneath it. Mrs. Lakey, if I can go to you, I'm really curious, when we hear all of this, what would you say is some of the requirements that are still needed, perhaps within research or within development, to really make sure that we make these interdisciplinary connections, if you will, between energy, water, and food?
Yeah, they're very important that we start thinking in an interdisciplinary way, in a systems approach. This is, we're talking about both an energy system transition and we are talking about the agricultural system. And let's just be clear, in order for us to achieve the energy transition, we have to have people involved in this clean energy economy.
Absolutely.
And that clean energy economy needs to rely on and be part of an integrated strategy for our agricultural communities as well.
Yeah.
So I think there are three things I would leave you with. One is we need to look at the taxation structures.
Okay.
We
do
need
tell.
to make sure that many of the solar PV panels are being imported, and they're being imported into places where those taxation structures can make them inaccessible because they're simply too expensive.
Yeah.
And then we need to think about that financing, we need to think about that training, we need to think about, again, these other sectors of our economy that will help facilitate the accessibility for farmers to get those panels.
Yeah.
And I think it's important that we start quantifying and reporting how it's going, right? Where are we seeing the failures? Where are we seeing the successes? And use that, because in the narrative for many people, it's the farmer 2 towns over who had his solar panel fail.
Yeah.
And therefore, I should be hesitant to embrace that technology.
Right.
So when we have technology failures, we need to come back with an opportunity to correct what that data is telling us about the system failure.
I love that. And really at the root of it then is first gaining transparency, measuring in a way where it goes wrong so that we can derive lessons from it. The taxation part is also interesting. Do we tax on a basis of just overall the implication of a project or something that is happening, or are we looking at what is it sort of benefiting, in what way is it benefiting society on social capital, natural capital, and then maybe allocating some differentiation there to make sure that it becomes more accessible.
Yeah, and I think the data is really important. And right now, there's not a lot of ways we're collecting that data.
Yeah.
We have an Energy Access Explorer platform that allows you to overlay the socioeconomic information about health clinics, livelihood
really
centers, to be able to get at that opportunity. We really need to do more of that with the land use questions. Where are farmers experimenting?
Can I fairly say that that's a call of action to anyone in the room that wants to forge more power together?
Absolutely.
Okay, I love that. Look at what we're doing here at the Dialogue Hub, folks. With that being said, I'd like to go to you, Dr. Brassert, for a final question, because when we talk about incentivizing and making sure that there's really power behind action, Thailand has the energy policy direction, which really supports the adoption of renewable energy within agriculture. Can you maybe share a little bit more about that?
Well, for this agrivoltaic, actually, I don't think there is any needs for the financial incentive. The optimizing the land use would be able to pay all the extra investment. However, in Thailand, we're in a small country. We have some areas designated to be forest, conservative areas, and we have some areas for agriculture and some area for the industrial zone. By regulation, you would not be able to put the solar farms on the agriculture zone.
Right.
So with these agrivoltaic technologies, we would be able to do both agriculture and solar power generation at the same time. So with that kind of regulation and the land constraint, it would help
pay itself back.
Well, we have to do it. So we don't need to incentivize.
It's like, indeed, it's where we stand within the urgency of everything that it has to happen. I want to thank you because we're already at the end of this deep dive. Thank you so much, Mrs. Leakey. Thank you, Dr. Brassert.